I bought my first house in March of 2023, a small two-bedroom in suburban Ohio, built in 1987. The price was suspiciously low, but the realtor explained it had been on the market for 8 months. The previous owner had moved suddenly, needed a quick sale. I didn't ask questions. I should have. The first night, I slept on an air mattress in the empty living room. The moving truck wasn't coming until the weekend. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to footsteps above me. Slow, deliberate steps crossing the bedroom, directly overhead. Back and forth, back and forth. I froze. I was alone. I knew I was alone. The footsteps stopped. I waited in the darkness, heart pounding, telling myself it was the house settling. Old pipes, new homeowner paranoia. Then I heard it. A voice, muffled but clear, coming from upstairs. A woman's voice. She was crying. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and went upstairs. Every step creaked under my weight. The crying stopped the moment I reached the top. I checked both bedrooms, the bathroom, every closet. Nothing. Empty rooms and my own racing heartbeat. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. The next day, I mentioned it to my neighbor while he was getting his mail. He was an older guy, maybe 70, lived on the street for decades. When I told him about the crying, his face went pale. "You heard Eleanor?" he said quietly. Eleanor was the previous owner. She'd lived in my house for 36 years. Her husband died in the master bedroom in 2019. Cancer. After that, neighbors said she was never the same. They'd see her lights on at all hours, hear her talking to someone when she was alone, walking back and forth in that bedroom, having conversations with empty air. She died 6 months before I bought the place. The neighbor didn't want to tell me how. But when I pressed him, he finally admitted. She hanged herself in the master bedroom closet, the same closet I'd checked the night before. Here's the thing that still keeps me up at night. After he told me this, I went back inside and really looked at that bedroom. That's when I noticed the ceiling. There was a patch of newer paint, slightly different shade than the rest, right above where the closet door opens. I called the realtor, asked point blank if someone had died in the house. She got defensive, said they weren't legally required to disclose that in Ohio, unless I specifically asked. And I hadn't asked. I wanted to be angry, but mostly I was scared. Because that night, the footsteps came back. Same pattern, same bedroom. And this time, I heard something else. The closet door in the master bedroom, slowly creaking open. I went upstairs with a baseball bat. The door was open. I know I'd closed it earlier. I know I did. And inside the closet, hanging from the rod where Eleanor had died, was my jacket, the one I'd left downstairs on the kitchen counter. I didn't put it there. I slept in my car that night. And the next, and the next. I tried to sell the house after 2 weeks, but the market was slow. I stayed because I couldn't afford to leave. I'm still here now, 9 months later. I've learned to live with Eleanor. She walks every night between 2 and 3 a.m., always the same path. Bedroom to window, window to closet, closet to bedroom. I don't go upstairs during those hours anymore. I've also stopped using the master bedroom entirely. It's her room, I know that now. Last week, I came home from work and found all my family photos face down. Every single one. The wedding photo of Eleanor and her husband, which the previous estate sale left behind, was sitting upright on my coffee table. I'd packed it away in the basement weeks ago. I left it there. I don't move it anymore. Sometimes I wonder if Eleanor even knows she's dead. Or maybe she does know and she just can't leave. Either way, I've accepted it. This is her house. I'm just living in it. But I'll tell you this. I'm never, ever opening that closet door again. When my wife and I bought our house in Portland last year, there was one strange requirement in the contract. The basement door had to remain locked at all times. The previous owner was insistent. He even included a clause that if we ever opened it, he wasn't liable for anything that happened. We laughed about it, thought it was eccentric. Maybe he'd left junk down there, didn't want to clean it out. The house was beautiful otherwise, we signed. The door was in the kitchen, old wood painted white, with 3 separate locks: deadbolt, chain, and a padlock. We got keys to all 3. The previous owner, a man named Richard Chen, looked me dead in the eye at closing and said, "Seriously, don't open it." We lasted 6 weeks. The sound started small, scratching, like something with nails on concrete, coming from behind that door. My wife thought it was rats. I called an exterminator. He looked at the door and refused to open it. Said he'd heard stories about this house. When I pressed him, he left. Actually packed up his equipment and drove away. That's when I started researching the property history. The house was built in 1962. Richard Chen bought it in 2001. But here's what caught my attention. Between 1962 and 2001, the house had 17 different owners. The longest anyone stayed was 3 years. Most left within months. I found an old newspaper article from 1984. A couple who'd lived there reported hearing voices from their basement. They called police multiple times. Officers found nothing. The couple moved out after the wife claimed something grabbed her ankle while she was cooking. Pulled her toward the basement door. She showed officers bruises in the shape of fingerprints. My wife didn't want to believe it. Said it was urban legend, previous owners trying to devalue the property. But the scratching got louder, more insistent. And then one night, we heard knocking. 3 knocks. Pause, 3 knocks. Pause. Over and over. Coming from inside the basement. I wanted to call the police. My wife said we'd look insane. What would we say? There's knocking in our locked basement? Instead, I did something stupid. I called Richard Chen, got his new number from the realtor. He answered on the first ring, like he'd been waiting. "You heard it, didn't you?" he said. I asked him what was down there. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "I don't know. I never opened it either." He'd bought the house from an estate sale in 2001. The previous owner had died of a heart attack. Richard found the door locked. Found a note in the man's belongings. It just said, "Never open the basement door. Whatever you hear, whatever happens, never open it." Richard kept it locked for 22 years. He said the first 10 years were the worst. Constant sounds, knocking, scratching, voices. Then, it would go quiet for months. He almost opened it several times, but something always stopped him. A feeling, he said. A deep, primal certainty that opening that door would be the worst mistake of his life. I asked him why he sold the house. He said his daughter was visiting last Christmas. She was 4 years old. She walked up to the basement door and said, "Grandpa, why is the man in the basement so angry?" He moved out 2 weeks later. After that call, I wanted to leave too, but we'd put everything into this house. We couldn't afford to move. So we stayed. We tried to ignore it. But 3 nights ago, the knocking changed. It wasn't coming from inside the basement anymore. It was coming from right behind the door, like someone was standing on the other side, knocking to get out. And yesterday morning, I came downstairs to find scratches on the inside of the door, deep gouges in the wood, fresh splinters on the kitchen floor. Something inside that basement is trying to get out. We're moving next week. I don't care if we have to break the lease, take the financial loss. We're leaving. And whoever buys this house next, I'm putting the same clause in the contract. Lock the basement door, never open it. Because I have a terrible feeling that after 40 years of people keeping it locked, it's only a matter of time before someone curious enough, or stupid enough, finally opens it. And I don't want to be here when they do. I found the house on Zillow. A Victorian in upstate New York, built in 1894. It had been fully renovated, modern kitchen, updated electrical, but they'd kept all the original architectural details. Crown molding, hardwood floors, and in the master bedroom, an enormous antique mirror built into the wall. The mirror was floor-to-ceiling, ornate gold frame, original to the house. The listing photos showed it prominently. I loved it. Thought it added character. The realtor mentioned the previous owners had specifically asked to keep it when they renovated. Said it was too beautiful to remove. I should have asked why they moved after only living there for 8 months. The first week was perfect. I'm single, work from home, and the house was exactly what I needed. Quiet, spacious. That mirror in the bedroom caught light beautifully during the day. But at night, I started noticing something odd. When I'd wake up around 3 or 4 a.m., the mirror looked different, darker somehow, like the glass was clouded. I'd turn on the light, and it would be normal again. Clear reflection. I blamed it on sleep deprivation, the way your eyes play tricks in the dark. Then I started seeing the figure. Just glimpses at first. I'd catch movement in the mirror from the corner of my eye, turn to look, nothing there. I told myself it was my own reflection, shadows, headlights from the street. But the glimpses became more frequent, more distinct. It was a woman, standing behind me in the reflection. The first time I saw her clearly, I spun around. The bedroom was empty. I looked back at the mirror. She was gone. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it. I grabbed my phone, turned on every light, checked every room. Nothing. I didn't sleep in that bedroom for 3 days, but I couldn't avoid the mirror forever. It was built into the wall. Short of demolishing part of the bedroom, it wasn't going anywhere. So I covered it with a bedsheet, hung it over the frame. That night, I woke up to the sound of fabric sliding on wood. The sheet was on the floor. The mirror was exposed, and the woman was standing in the reflection, staring directly at me. She was wearing a white nightgown, long, dark hair hanging loose. Her face was pale, features indistinct in the darkness, but her eyes. God, her eyes were so clear, and they were locked on mine. I couldn't move, couldn't scream. We stared at each other for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. Then, she raised her hand, pressed it against the glass from inside the mirror, and I heard it. A soft thud, like someone actually touching the glass from inside. I ran, spent the night at a hotel. The next morning, I called a contractor, told him I wanted the mirror removed immediately. He came out that afternoon, took one look at it, and his face went white. "You're living in the Marsh house," he said. The Marsh family built the house in 1894. Lived there for 3 generations. In 1952, Catherine Marsh, the last living family member, died in the master bedroom. She was found sitting in front of that mirror. She'd been dead for 3 days before anyone found her. The contractor said everyone in town knew the story. The mirror was Catherine's most prized possession. She'd had it custom-made in Boston, installed when the house was built. After her death, every owner had tried to remove it. But strange things would happen. Tools would malfunction. Workers would get injured. One contractor fell through the floorboards and broke both legs. Another's drill caught fire in his hands. Eventually, people stopped trying to remove it. They'd just cover it or avoid that bedroom entirely. I asked him if he'd try anyway. Offered him triple his normal rate. He refused. Said he had a family, so I tried myself. I went at it with a crowbar, trying to pry the frame from the wall. The moment the crowbar touched the gold, I felt a shock run through my arm. Not electrical, something else. Cold, deep. And in the mirror, I saw Catherine. She wasn't behind me anymore. She was right there, inches from my face, on the other side of the glass. Her mouth opened, and even though no sound came out, I could read her lips. Mine. I dropped the crowbar. Haven't touched the mirror since. I'm selling the house. Already listed it. But here's the thing that terrifies me. In the listing photos the realtor took last week, you can see the bedroom, you can see the mirror, and if you look closely, very closely, you can see a figure in the reflection, standing exactly where I usually sleep, waiting.